Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the JS Mindset Weekly Call. My name's Denny. Today is Saturday, October 17th, 2020. On the call today, we have the boys, Jim Sinclair, Bill Holter, and Dave. You know, here in the Midwest, we've had our first frost, and clearly the weather has changed. What was shirt-sleeve weather has turned into sweatshirt and jacket weather overnight. The weather isn't the only thing that's changing here. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they all went into full filter the opposition mode, and we are witnessing unprecedented censorship. Events such as what we've seen this last week are so much more chilling than could ever be from any temperature change from summer to fall. And not to belabor the analogy, but my guess is that you ain't seen nothing yet. A digital winter is coming in free speech and free press, and we will deal with the deep freeze of truth and an ice box to opinions other than those approved by mainstream media. Truthfully, it makes me sick to my stomach. But here's a prediction. The truth will come out, and when it does, it'll make some of the things that old Dave has been talking about seem like kids' play. The truth may be delayed, but it's going to come out, and the world will become spellbound with how we've all been brainwashed for so many years. And yeah, that'll include gold too. Gold is truth, and when it comes to our money and our wealth, what more could we possibly ask for? Everything else is just a paper representation of truth, if that. As we share with you each week, please pay attention, and please prepare yourself for the turmoil and chaos that might be soon upon us. Lies and distortions will only last for so long, and when they're found out, there's going to be consequences for all of us. Each week we get the opportunity to ask the boys a lot of questions. Before we get to those questions, we always remind you that in the conversation, it's very important to remember we're not giving anybody an investment advice whatsoever. What we are trying to do is share our own personal perspectives of the economic world. You can choose to add it to your perspective. You can choose to ignore it. In the end, certainly we want you to be prepared for what could be some very trying times ahead. Jim, if what I'm reading is correct, the only ones buying U.S. Treasury debt are central banks. Most of the sovereign nations that have traditionally held the U.S. Treasury debt have been unloading it at record levels. Is this the forerunner of a reset coming? Jim, we're 3 weeks from a presidential election, but I'd sure like to know your thoughts on this political hot potato of who's dumping the treasuries.
Well, that's something that just didn't start. That's been in motion for quite some time, gaining momentum as it moved along. The real point is who's buying them, okay? Remember, we're in a market right now where interest rates are 0 to negative to plus nothing, and that means that Treasury instruments are in demand. Kind of a conundrum, isn't it? That the major holders are sellers, but the market seems to be the other way around. There's only one logical conclusion to come to, and that is pure debt monetization. When a sovereign buys back its own treasuries, it is what's called debt monetizing, and that basically is negative, especially in the longer term, to the stability of the sovereign, as well as the stability of the common stock of that sovereign, its currency. And we've been caught more than once using what we call beards. Back in the old days, and I think I don't go back to the button tree, but I'm pretty close to the founding of the New York Stock Exchange, or at least the American. A beard is when you don't want to be recognized within a market. You hire somebody else and give them a small profit to do what you want, to sell something, to buy something. And we found out that Belgium, for instance, was buying more U.S. treasuries than they were producing economically in a total year of their own economy. One of the biggest buyers in the world has been Grand Cayman. and Grand Cayman is where Washington keeps its money. Grand Cayman is, a resort place, flat, white sand, beach, palm tree, standard. Nothing terribly special except their tax status is one of the few tax havens of privacy that has not yet been touched by international law. There's very few tax havens left that function. But they are a beard for U.S. Treasuries in an amazing way. And one can say, well, everybody hides their money in Grand Cayman, so there must be a huge amount there. But countries like Belgium and Grand Cayman are not really primary buyers of let's say, U.S. Treasuries. The U.S. Treasury is. And how they do their bookkeeping and accounting is one of the things in this world, this entirely rigged world we live in, that's going to be a revelation when we finally find out that the numbers that are published are rarely anything near or indicative of what's taking place. So, so I would say that it's part and parcel of what we're living through, which is a false, cardboard constructed Potemkin City economic world, a total facade, totally made up, camouflaging a very, very ugly and weak system. And this entire, as exampled by, as we spoke in the beginning, the idea that even the people's opinion and thoughts are now being censored on internet platforms. And clearly, people are working together in concert or conspiratorially for a purpose. And that purpose right now is to rig an election in every possible way. All of this is not going to be able to continue because the guts of it is rotten. Inside this piece of fruit, the outside may look good, the inside's poisoned. So the selling of our treasuries, and where are they going? They're going directly through beards back to the U.S. Treasury and accounts in places controlled by the U.S. Treasury. So it's just another sign, another crack, another weakness, another portal to see through that the eventuality of what's taking place in every aspect of our lives is controlled, but has no legs to stay controlled. False. That's my conclusion.
Bill, I want you to bring us up to date on gold and silver availability, but before we do that, Bill, I keep hearing people saying that they're going to pick up some gold on the next pullback to this level or that. In the last couple, 3 or 4 years, first it was, I'm going to pick it up, Denny, when we get to about 1,200, when it pulls back. And then it was after we pull back to 1,500. Now I'm hearing the same thing, that when gold hits 1,800 again, they're going to load up. Bill, this has got to be some sort of psychological issue with people about not wanting to buy metals. Any thoughts as to what that mental block might be?
First off, the availability right now is better than what it was 3 or 4 months ago. There's not a ton in the way of Liberties and St. Gaudens. That still remains kind of tight, and the premiums have started to move higher. They got ridiculously cheap, and it got to the point where you could buy a good quality Liberty or St. for the same price as an Eagle. I can tell you that the only silver Eagles that we can get right now are 2020s. All the back dates seem to have vanished. But other than that, there's decent availability of pretty much everything. As far as the pullback is concerned, or that mindset, it's not just, you don't see that just in gold and silver. You do see that in other markets. people look at the market and say, well, when it pulls back 5% or 10%, but they've been, for so many years, the pullbacks have been aborted in the equity markets. So you have people that just throw their money at it and forget about timing because this thing's going to go straight up. My advice, and actually Jim's advice, is the best advice. The best time to buy gold or silver is when you have the money. And I think that's going to really ring true when there is no availability. And I did an interview yesterday with some Australians, and I lost my train of thought. I did an interview yesterday with the Australians regarding the availability, the ability to get gold and silver, and my comment was, you're going to be able to buy gold with silver, and you're going to be able to buy silver with gold, but you're not necessarily going to be able to buy either gold or silver with fiat. That day is going to come. In other words, people are going to want something. If they're going to give you something real, they want something real. But if you have something not real, like any fiat currency, the availability may be zero. And before you go on, I made a list of just the stuff that came out this week, and it's mostly election related. And as Jim said, they're trying to rig the election in every way possible. Just a list of what went on this week. We got information regarding Hunter Biden's laptop and how Joe Biden has been, obviously getting kickbacks. And that's very similar to what happened back in 2016 with Podesta's computer being hacked. That was a hack. This was stupidity. This was drunkenness, drug-induced, whatever you want to say. He dropped his laptop off and walked away from it. How much bigger of a dumbass can you be? We also got news, and this really didn't make, this is kind of a hidden one. Hillary, Bill, and the Clinton initiative, there has been the beginnings of an IRS case, which the IRS has said that they don't want to prosecute. And it could end up costing them as much as, well, the number I heard was between $400 million and $2.5 billion. There were two whistleblowers that meticulously went through their information. And the judge says the case goes forward. The IRS cannot drop it. So that's going to be interesting. We had the town hall meeting on, Wednesday night, I guess. And the thing that really stuck out to me, obviously, the Savannah Guthrie was pounding Trump, and it was a love fest with Biden. But I saw a screenshot of people watching live on YouTube, and it was 190,000 for Trump and 20,000 for Biden. Also this week, Biden did a rally where no one showed up. He did another rally where 7 people showed up. I had also mentioned that the NBA ratings for the finals are down 67%, and there's no other explanation other than people do not agree with Black Lives Matter on the court, on their jerseys. People are pissed off at the violence. We had the Twitter, Facebook, YouTube shutting down accounts. YouTube has purged many accounts this week, thousands of accounts. 2 of them that I've done interviews on, X22 and SGT, their accounts have been erased. They're no longer there. Let's see. There was also the moderator who was supposed to moderate the debate. He was outed, Scully. He was outed because, again, another dumbass move. He tweeted to Anthony Scaramucci that went out public, and he thought it was private, and then said he was hacked, and that turned out to be a lie. And believe it or not, he actually got put on the bench, or I'm not sure, let go without pay or whatever. And also, this next moderator is now being questioned because of her background. We also had the Supreme Court confirmation hearings, which were totally interesting. Especially the what's her name, Mazie Hirono from Hawaii. She actually scolded Barrett for using the term sexual preference. And she said that it's sexual orientation, sexual preference is offensive. And lo and behold, the very same day, guess what happened? Webster's Dictionary changed their definition of sexual preference. They say that sexual preference is an offensive term. Let's see. Or resigned rather than be questioned, or from the FBI. CNN actually asked two real questions this week. One was Blitzer asking Pelosi, and the other was Jake Tapper talking to Biden's campaign manager. Unbelievable that they would ask real questions, and these people were absolutely not prepared to answer the question. Let's see, what else do we have? I don't know the validity of this, but I've had 2 or 3 emails on this, people asking me what I know about it, and I really know very little. But it looks like Canada is going full one world order, and there's talk that they're actually building internment camps, and they're going to make a vaccine mandatory. And let's see, and just one other thing. I had a friend of mine email me and ask me, how is it even possible that Joe Biden can even be running for president? I mean, the guy says something like, he picks a number, it's like 1,183,453 million. I mean, something like a 5-year-old or 6-year-old would say. The guy's totally incoherent. I don't even understand how it's possible that he's running. It's not even possible that the press. I don't know. I'll leave it at that.
David, I want to follow up.
You've been doing your homework, Bill.
Yeah.
That was a great list. But
that only took me 15 minutes.
Yeah,
somebody better pass you the Xanax. Sorry.
One thing I want to know is you've been listening to CNN a little bit too much lately.
Yeah.
Hey, you always have to listen to what the other side's saying, at least.
Well, you can stick your fingers in your ears if it gets too bad.
David, this next one's for you.
Hey, Denny, wait a minute. You just made a joke about Xanax, huh? Tell me I need Xanax? I'm getting on a plane and beat your ass.
Okay. Eat your Wheaties. All right, David. This week was one for the history books.
Remember, I've had snowflakes here for 10 days straight, okay? And there's only been one blow up, and it wasn't.
Up. Oh, God.
Go ahead.
All right, you done?
No, he's drinking out of a paper straw.
All right. David, this one, like Bill was talking about, was one for the history books. The social media giants went all in with the equivalent of it's an in-kind contribution to the Biden-Harris camp because they were banning news about Hunter Biden's alleged selling of influence, pedophilia, possible human trafficking. I've also seen the politicians closing ranks, Dave, the likes of Adam Schiff and others stating that this is all a Russian psyop. Dave, these social media companies have crossed a line I never thought I would live to see them cross. So you're the one that sort of monitors things better than all of us. Is this the beginning of a larger skirmish between freedom of speech and free press, or is this the beginning of the end of public communication as we know it?
Okay, well, let's back up here one moment. As I don't watch TV, I also have never been on Facebook or read a Facebook post. I've never been on Twitter or read a tweet or seen a tweet. And what was the other one you mentioned?
YouTube.
YouTube, yeah. Well, in YouTube, I do see things on YouTube, but I'm aware that the censorship on YouTube has been going on for a very long time. So to start from the top, none of this surprises me. And I'd like to just touch on something real quick. I want to read something. This is from 1994. News and the Culture of Lying, How Journalism Really Works by Paul Weber. The U.S. press, like the U.S. government, is a corrupt and troubled institution. Corrupt not so much in the sense that it accepts bribes, but in a systemic sense. It fails to do what it claims to do, what it should do, and what society expects it to do. The news media and the government are entwined in a vicious circle of mutual manipulations, myth-making, and self-interest. Journalists need crisis to dramatize news, and government officials need to appear to be responding to crisis. Too often the crises are not really crises, but joint fabrications. The two institutions have become so ensnared in a symbiotic web of lies that the news media are able to tell the public what is true, and the government is unable to govern effectively. That is the thesis advanced by Paul Warner, a former political scientist at Harvard University. So what we're talking about here, we could jump up and down and say this is unprecedented, but in my mind, I learned a long time ago, and I've said this to Bill all along, if the mainstream news is pushing a narrative, I almost 100% immediately look at it and try and turn the Rubik's Cube and see, is it real or is it fabricated? And to back that up, there was an operation years ago called Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird is an alleged, this is Wikipedia, so they had to...
No, it's a fact, Dave. It's not alleged, it's a fact. And Wikipedia, you could lump Wikipedia in there too, because people go in and edit that all the time.
That's exactly why I'm bringing this up. Anybody with a brain knows Operation Mockingbird, in fact, was a program. The fact that it starts off with it was an alleged large scale. Well, Jeffrey Epstein allegedly committed suicide. Personally, I don't believe that. But Operation Mockingbird, in fact, took place. What was it? It was the CIA taking control of the news media. The former leader of the New York Times is on record stating, God knows how many years back, that he could only tell you what he was told to say, because if he told you what he really wanted to tell you, he would immediately be out of a job.
Or killed.
Well, I'm just trying to be diplomatic here. But the bottom line is none of this surprises me, Jay. It's been going on forever. The fact that the public relies on those mediums for their news tells me that they cannot independently think, nor are they capable of doing their own research. Anybody who has done any research, and everybody knows I'm apolitical, anybody who's done research knows that Hunter Biden has a drug problem, I don't know if he still does. Maybe he went through rehab and cleaned up his back. But anybody with a brain knows that he had a problem. And a friend of mine says, what do you mean? I said, buddy, I go back and pull up articles where he returned a rental car in Arizona and there's a crack pipe and crack in it. Doesn't make him a bad guy. It means he has a problem. The fact that he may or may not have used his father's position to further his financial position would be naive to think that that didn't take place. That's how our games work. You can go back to Manuel Noriega. Manuel Noriega was a go-between between the United States and Central America and the cocaine trade. He got too big for his britches, and Daddy Bush took him out. That's just fact. But if you read the story, no, they took him out because he was a bad guy. They took him out because he was a CIA asset. You could Google it. You could look it up. George Bush was a CIA asset. So none of this surprises me. The media in the past, I don't want to use the word, but essentially through omitting the facts, you are misleading the public. How many people have seen in the news media in the past 20 years the story, sell the stocks and buy gold? I know a lot of alternative media people who have said it, but I've never seen the mainstream media saying that our economy is a Ponzi scheme and the only way to save precious metals. Yet they know there's a ton of us out here who have those feelings. Well, again, are they lying to the public or are they just omitting facts? The University of Alaska released a study in March that was years and years in the making, stating that the information you were given regarding the collapse of World Trade Center 7 is not possible the way you've been told it. Has the media covered it? Now, if you start tweeting about it, will they delete it? If you're using those platforms, then you get exactly what you deserve, a lazy man's answer. The problem, as I see it in this country, is people have the attention span of a house gnat. They can't think. They don't remember things from the past. They can't connect the dots, and they get in this position, and they're like, well, look. Again, you're using medias that are owned by them. I never, ever was on Facebook, MySpace, whatever it was before that. I've never seen an Instagram post. When people tell me that their YouTubes are monetized and they're getting paid, I'm like, really? You don't have a real job? Your job is to sit home and make YouTubes and expect to infinitely get paid for it like a commission on an insurance policy for the rest of your life. If that's what you're doing, have at it. But in my mind, that one is not a business plan. Two, you're setting yourself up for failure because you have no control over your freedom. So that being said, it has been an incredible week, but it's been an incredible 30 years for me researching this stuff. So none of this surprises me. If anybody has followed James Corbett over the years, he's clearly done video after video after video. And I say video because the stuff is not YouTube. It's on his site, and it's archived on his site because, like he says, eventually these platforms will de-platform anybody they want. So the only way to really have information is to not put it in the cloud, because the cloud is nothing but a server controlled by them that they will wipe clean. So, again, we're in remarkable times.
Just like they're going to do to people's accounts, Dave.
Well, and again,
if you have an account in the cloud, good luck.
I'll tell you all a quick story. But on the cloud is absolutely a lie in itself that David just pointed out. It's no cloud. It's building.
So I'm going to steal your money. So I'm always trying to get people, and I vary my banking almost non-existent. When I say non-existent, I don't bank with a bank. I don't keep any money in a bank. Years and years and years and years and years back, I had a problem with the IRS, and they cleaned out a bank account. I mean, literally, it was a business bank account, and it cost me an enormous amount of problem, and it should not have been done. It was. To make a long story short, I have a very good friend with his dad's situation. His dad, obviously, at 95 years old in the nursing home, got certain amounts of benefits. And for this to continue, my friend had his name on the bank account because you need to manage this. To make a long story short, the guy died on the last day of the month, this is an insane story. So he died on the last day of the month. Due to that, he was not entitled to the benefits that he received in the month that he died. And they were debiting the account. Well, the problem was the account was tied to my buddy's account, who all of a sudden the money was gone. And he's like, what are you doing? And as I had tried to explain to him over the years, that is the problem with using their systems. Just like they could put the digital money in your account to give you your pandemic check, what they give it, they could take it away, and they will. And if you use their systems, then you have nobody to blame but yourself. Well, it's convenient. As I said, if you use their systems, you have nobody to blame but yourself when it goes bad. We have spent, and I don't want to say we and you, I have tried to explain to everybody I know the problem with saving money in a bank account, keeping it in a stock brokerage account, holding stock. As Jim has explained, a stock is a piece of paper that's really held by your brokerage account. So if you put yourself in their system, and I use the word their system, then anything that happens to you, don't be surprised by. So when I see that YouTube or they take this down or you can't say this, well, you're using their platform. They can do whatever they want. And if you thought this was all fair and balanced, then you obviously are naive and haven't done your own research. How's that, Denny?
Well, you didn't disappoint.
Hey, Denny?
Yeah, Jim, you're up next. What you got?
Well, just one point. I explained the mechanics of the first question you asked. I could have done it in one sentence, and let me go back there. The selling in the various sovereigns are being bought by the U.S. Treasury in various and different accounts. It's artificial. They're being purchased not by any other public or investing public. They're being bought back basically by the sovereign itself.
Okay. Well, Jim, let's go on a little bit farther. On Le Métropole Café website this week, it was mentioned that Harvey Organ has figured out the physical situation with gold and silver, at least in London and the COMEX. I'm going to read a direct quote of what I read. Basically, he says that physical supplies of both gold and silver have dried up, and that is the reason the trading volume on the COMEX has dried up. Traders are used to using the futures market in various ways to arbitrage or trade against or with their physical situation. But since they cannot access physical gold or silver like they used to, they've stopped trading. Jimmy goes on to say that Harvey expects the gold and silver prices to really take off following our coming elections in November 3rd. But, Jim, if what he's saying is true, can they hold it back that long? I mean, we're, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks away from the election?
No, nobody can. It's saying what size is the wave, and can King Canute actually stand in the water and stop the waves? It's splitting hairs, because what Harvey is saying is that the trading has declined because there is a recognition of the fact that deliveries can't really be made. And there's a reticence to there's a reticence to hedge paper against physical, because the facade, the counterfeit paper is being recognized as such. So there is no arbitrage. So if our long-standing position, what is a contract worth that can't function, then what is a hedge worth that can't function? And as that recognition grows, in whatever manner it's motivated, volume on the paper exchange has to drop as a prelude to a decline in the price of gold in terms of paper, and a significant and sharp and parabolic increase in the price of physical. Harvey's absolutely right in his general view, but I don't see how you can take that to timing. It is coming. Everything will be brought to fore, as you've already seen, to try and make the election go in a certain way, and you can expect that to accelerate with the revelations that maybe the president wasn't the vice president isn't Mother Teresa. So it's hard to believe that markets could go completely out of control, just 3 weeks before election. But I'd say the fundamental reality of the rot inside this piece of fruit means that that gold is about to go parabolic. And to me, what difference is it whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 3 months, or whatever? It's going to happen. There's no way around it. And there's no game you can play to hide it. No matter who gets elected, spending is going wild. We are promised trillions upon trillions upon trillions. It doesn't exist. These are, everybody thinks that's money. It's not money. It's simply an entry in cyberspace. Just like banks have so many deposits. Well, where is the deposit? Where is the money? It's all in cyberspace. If you put all the cash in the world in a pile, it's not going to the moon like people say. Who knows? It may not go very far. It's the debits and credits or that represent money that are computer entries. I mean, we are living a dream, and it's getting too thin and too public and too accepted. I mean, normally if the news of this week had come out, there would have been a bit of an uproar, even amongst institutions that would otherwise support a person. It's the whole thing. I mean, we are so degraded that it reflects the rotten inside of a piece of fruit, and it's held together because the public has been dumbed down so long as to be able to have their focus changed at will.
And they want to believe, Jim.
They sure do. But, well, what difference is it if it's, Harvey's right, but timing is not something that's going to come out of the figures that may or may not be correct. The people who gave us, most of our scandals based on figures are the same people who are telling you what the figures are of major traders, of warehouses, of speculators, etc. It's all bull, okay? Harvey is right for the wrong reason. His timing it's going to happen, and could 3 weeks be the time? Certainly. But there is no solid, consistent way to time a game that the house is always the winner of.
Bill, I want to go back to your rant and then also some of Dave's comments.
Hey, that wasn't a rant. I was just telling the truth.
Well, okay.
Come on.
Your truthful rant. You wrote this week. You wrote this week that something gets censored, it's almost guaranteed that it's true. I never thought of things in such black and white terms, but Bill, I think you nailed it there, and I hate giving you a compliment. But why else would they ever bother with censorship if it wasn't true? All right, so Bill, what's your crystal ball showing you about the survival of truth, at least in public discourse? Can it survive here? Can it come back? Where do you think we are with this, Bill?
Well, the only time anything gets censored is if it's directly over the target. If it's absolutely true, it's censored. I was going to save this for the very end, but I'll talk about it now. My thought process, and I can't wait for election season to be over because I didn't like talking about it 4 years ago and don't really like talking about it now. But my personal opinion on this is I think there's enough pissed off people. You can see in the size of rallies. You can see in the NBA ratings. I think what you're going to see is it's going to be a landslide for Trump. Amy Coney Barrett is going to be approved. She's going to be seated. And one of the things, actually, I should have mentioned, I think I saw somewhere the number this week. It was like 300 total judges, federal judges, that Trump has put in over the last 4 years. And I think that's going to continue. I do believe that with a Trump landslide and with what he's done as far as the court system, moving or tipping the court toward conservatives, and I forget about liberals and conservatives, tipping the court toward the Constitution. My opinion is there's definitely enough absolute visible dirt out there where all kinds of people should be in jail. I do think that we started to see some of the, 10,000 sealed indictments. You just had one, the biggest tax case in history. It was $2 billion this past week. If I'm right, and it is a landslide for Trump, I think some stuff will get done in the next 4 years as far as cleaning up some of the dirt. I know you disagree with that, Dave, but it just seems to me every time he's tried to get something done, it gets blocked, and I think that will change with this election, but that remains to be seen.
David, this week on the farm we had police dog training here. We have as many as 6 dogs at a time, and they do their bomb detection, they do their dope detection, and they also worked with their attack sequences in training them to take down a perpetrator. So one of the deputies, who's a friend of mine, dutifully puts on this 60 to 75-pound Kevlar suit. He wraps his arms up with these great big foam things, and he gets ready to just get bit. But that got me to thinking, we've been talking for months and even longer than that about the debt bubble. The debt derivatives have multiplied, like Jim said, like fruit flies on an overripe banana, and yet I'm going to call it the Kevlar debt bubble just keeps growing. Dave, could it be that this Kevlar debt bubble just won't break? If something else is going to happen, but the debt bubble won't break?
Well, Denny, again, when you say you have to define what in your mind breaking is. In my mind, it's already broken, or you would not have had the repo market being pumped full of money. In my mind, a lot of the things that we're talking about have already taken place. And again, let's just use the building. 100-story building, guy jumps off. At the 50th story, he still thinks everything's ducky. I'm standing there going, this guy's dead. This guy's dead. You know, everybody's going, no, look, he's still got a smile on his face. So, you know,
I'm sorry. It is a perfect analogy, Dave. It's a perfect analogy.
You know, because again, if I was wrong, gold wouldn't be at almost $2,000. Because when it was in the high 200s, I had people jumping up and down, yelling at me, what are you going to do with it? You just put your money in the stock market. You don't have to save it. And it's going to cost you money, and you're flying all over the world, and you're putting it here. You do what you want with your money. I'll do what I want with my money. I think the system's breaking. Well, now here we are 20 years later, and, you know, now we're saying, when's it going to break? Well, if it didn't already break, how come the dollar value of gold that your money would buy has evaporated? Yes or no?
85% since the year 2000 has been a drop in the purchasing power of the dollar versus gold.
Silver was $3.50. What's silver now? So, and again, I'm just saying, in my mind, it's a process. Everybody's jumping up and down saying, this is the moment, it's this week, it's next week, this is going to happen. And I'm like, sit back, enjoy the ride, think about it as a process, don't look at it every single day, back from your computer, it's down $50. Yeah, but it's up how many hundreds and almost thousands since I started this? Stop jumping up and down. Go back to doing what you're supposed to be doing. And as Jim and Bill have said, when you have spare change, use it. And if you don't, and if you think you're going to time this and I'm going to buy on the tip, good luck. I've been trying that for 20 years. You know how it works? 99% of the time you outsmart yourself. Do you know why? Because the game's rigged. The people on the other side are pulling the levers. It's that simple. The game's rigged. I had a friend who's a broker yell at me, but it can't get out of its own way. How about because it's rigged? Oh, it's not rigged. You're just a conspiracy theorist. Oh, yeah? Well, how many banks now have pled guilty or been caught spoofing, rigging, whatever you want to call it?
And Dave, gold since the year 2000, gold has outperformed the S&P 500 with dividends reinvested.
And absolutely. And the S&P 500 is what? It's a make-believe index that they keep.
Yeah, and there's risk involved. Those are companies that can go bankrupt. An ounce of gold can never bankrupt. So when you risk adjust the return, it's even bigger.
The change that Dave said, though, that's very important. The note today: if what's in that index is dragging on the index, it finds a way out.
They kick it out.
Yeah, they kick it out. So that's all con, man. An index is an index. It should not be changed. Whatever it is, it is.
It is. The Dow was completely changed since the dot-com bubble. The NASDAQ, they do this game all the time, and people say, but look at the index. Look at the index. What's in it? You know what's in my safe? The same gold that I bought 20 years ago. The same silver I bought 20 years ago. And I've added to it whenever I had the opportunity to add to it. So
perfect timing.
You know, and again, ask Bill. I thought I was a good trader. You know what I am? Just like Jim said, outsmarted, because these guys, you can't ever beat the house. You know, the casino, you may walk in and one day beat the house, but 99.999% of the people get their clock cleaned, which is why casinos are in business. And as far as Bill's saying, these companies that are in the index, if we had capitalism, over half of them would have been broke. General Motors would be gone. GE would be gone. Boeing would be gone. We don't have capitalism.
And something else would replace it better.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's what have they done? Apple? You got Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Tesla, and, you know, a handful of stocks that they use to jam the market over and over. I mean, it's nauseating. As I said, I get up every day, no matter how bad the news is, at 4:30 in the morning, the futures are up 200, 300, 400, 500. And I'm like, really? How stupid is the public that they're going to stay? They're staying in this Ponzi scheme. Do you know why? Because so far it's gone their way. Unfortunately, it really hasn't. They've been had. And, you know, so the debt bubble, the dog already chewed through it. The dog ate their homework. They didn't do their homework, which is why they are where they are. It's why they're on Twitter. It's why they're on Facebook. It's why they're worried about all these social media platforms, because they're too damn lazy to do their own research.
Even have a name for it, modern monetary theory. How's that? Sounds good.
Well,
hey, Denny, I got an analogy for the debt market. It's the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man.
From Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
Jim, before I let you all go, Jim, my son sent me this article this week, and the title of the market was, "What Makes India a Hotspot for Smuggled African Gold?" Now, smuggling might be a little bit easier between Africa and India for a number of reasons, Jim. You've lived in both countries. I never thought about smuggling gold. Is smuggling gold taking place? And what do you think, Jim?
Oh, it's historic. Okay, it's you know, they have people a woman in Dar es Salaam passed out, fell down on the floor, passed out, and she looked like she was a very heavy lady. All gold. Okay. Because India has had experiences back to before the written language of fiat currencies being basically worthless, they only believe in one thing. And no, you know, an Indian doesn't believe in putting his money in the bank because they understand. That's the babu. He runs the show. He's going to steal your money. And the problem with the gold out of Africa is that there's a lot of unregulated mining, and gold is a currency for any good or nefarious purpose, because it's not subjective, it's objective. It can be quoted. Diamonds aren't a currency. That's the biggest crock in the world. The blood blood road diamonds? No. You can sit two guys down and they'll argue for 4 years over an inclusion before they get the idea of what this 10-carat diamond beautiful thing is worth. Look, diamonds are not currencies. Oh, they got value, but there's no way in the world that's a currency. Gold is the currency of a quiet world, both in the honest and dishonest manner, and smuggling between India and Africa. I mean, that's an age-old occupation that is, I mean, without any doubt, flourishing. What do you think the currency of terrorism is? Diamonds? Are you crazy? It's gold. When they blew that central bank up, you think paper went up in the air? Boy, when that paper came down, you better not be underneath the bar.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say the reason gold is smuggled into India is because of the tariff, the duty. Right now it's about $17, so it's almost 10%.
But
I'm sorry, it's 1%.
It's like Indians paying taxes. I've never heard of it.
Right, but they avoid that. That's the reason to smuggle it.
But the currency of it, you mean the Golden Temple, when they mentioned touching the gold of the Golden Temple, that would start a war.
People went crazy, yep.
Yeah, start a war. India has a respect for gold that is outrageous. And because gold is quiet and gold doesn't talk, it functions in all manners as a real currency because its value is definitive.
Right.
It is the ultimate currency. But because it's money.
Except it's too heavy to get up to Mars.
Oh, yeah, well, too bad. I don't think I'm going to be involved in doing much on Mars financially.
Guys, that's about all I have for this week. Dave, I'll start with you. Have you got anything else you want to? And Dave, you were very patient when Bill kept interrupting you. I'd like to compliment you on your manners. I'm going to disconnect you from the charm school. Okay?
You know what,
you can never sit on a committee.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Denny, really, I don't have anything else I want to add other than what I've already said. Yeah, I don't ever say anything and expect people to believe me, because if that's what you do, then I haven't taught you anything, or you haven't learned anything from what I'm trying to tell you. Every time I mention something, every time I watch, whether it's James Corbett or somebody else, first thing I want to see footnotes on what they've talked about. I want to be able to go research for myself what you're saying, because I don't want to believe anybody, because it's too easy to be misled. So whenever I say something, if I'm bringing up things, be it Operation Mockingbird or, the story that I read, from 1994, that's all there. While we still have the Internet, and I'm not, as we say, they censor Wikipedia. They've censored forever. I mean, again, if you have been a critical thinker your whole life, then the things I'm telling you are nothing new. It should just be, yep, we knew this already. So that's why everybody up in arms. Oh, they're censoring. Those platforms are garbage, in my opinion, especially since it's so easy to be misled, because there's no research, there's no footnotes. It's a story. It got your attention. 90% of this stuff is just clickbait. I look at Zero Hedge, and I mean, like, in the old days, when it first came out, they had a lot of good information. And I would say to myself, well, who's doing all this work and why? The answer is clickbait, because you can just line the advertisers up. So, again, do your own research. Learn to think for yourself, critically think for yourself. Because, again, the time may come when they shut down the Internet, they blame it on some other country or some other attack, or this one did it, that one did it, and we've already burned all the books. The books are burned, everything's on the cloud, and nobody knows how to do anything except look it up on their smartphone in 3 seconds. And all of a sudden, they're an instant genius. But the problem is this technology has made you so ADD that you can't remember the name of Graham Fuller when you remember reading it that he worked for the CIA 30 years ago, And then when his name shows up again in the Boston bombing, stop and say, hey, wait a minute. Let me go look that story up. How is it possible this guy now has showed up in 3 places that are impossible to be in unless you're connected to the event? So, again, please learn to do your own research as much as, all of us talk. Anything that I encourage you to go look up, learn for yourself, because that day may not be far away. Because, again, they're censoring this, they're censoring that. The easiest way to censor it off is just shut the internet off or the TV. And then nobody will know anything. So, learn to do your own research and hopefully learn from what we try and teach you each week. And if you think I'm a whack job or anybody else is, then censor us. Don't listen.
Bill, how about you? Have you got anything else you want to share?
Yeah, a couple things. One, a snowflake update. They're not here today, so I can speak freely. I've taken the tack of asking them questions rather than spelling stuff out for them. I'm asking them questions, and I think it's starting to get through. I think they're actually even questioning their own existence. So we'll see. We got another 5 days, 6 days. My blood pressure will go down. The other thing is, I can't strongly enough say that, in my opinion, and take my opinion or don't. I have with the election 2.5 weeks away. No matter who wins, it's going to become stupid. And I promise you, when we're living in stupid, distribution's not going to happen. If there's violence all over the place, truckers are not going to get on the road and go from point A to point B. They're not going to go into cities. Distribution's going to break down. So I've taken over the last week or so, and I told my wife, I said, whatever you think we're going to need in the next year, buy it now. Buy it, have it shipped. I've gone a couple, 3 times, and I mean we're pretty well topped up. But I mean I've increased supplies. Matter of fact, and I do want to mention, I ordered 300 pounds of parboiled rice. And the reason you want parboiled rice is that stuff will last 5 to 10 years. It's partially boiled. You don't get bugs in it. And the funny thing is, they sent it by U.S. Postal Service. So my mailman has come every day for the last, and we've still got 2 more days to go. For the last 4 days, he's brought 2 25-pound boxes of parboiled rice. So the reason I bring this up is make sure you top off, make sure you do whatever you think you're going to need going forward, because after the election, it may not be possible, because who knows what's going to happen.
All right, Jim, it's back to you. The wise one. What have you got to share?
I'd say we all talk about the election. We're all concerned about the trends and what it means in the future. And the truth is, David's right. It doesn't matter who gets elected. What's going to happen is going to happen. The spending is going to take place. The debt will grow. There is a limitation to modern monetary theory. That's just nothing but smoke and mirrors. And you are absolutely right, Bill. You can't be prepared after the event. And preparation is your protection, monetarily, physically, spiritually, psychologically, physically. Good advice, guys. That's what I got to say.
Well, with that, we will let you all go for the week. Remember that JS Mindset continues on. We appreciate you visiting and downloading the really, really good stuff. Bill got fired up. I think it was because of his snowflake relatives being in town. He was posting very actively this week, but it was all good stuff. And beyond that, always remember that money's not everything. It's just that having money makes things so much easier in life. Truly, it is the people in your life that are worth $1 million, and don't you dare forget to tell them so. With that, we'll be back with you next week, and in the meantime, just know we send you our very best.